Let's talk about monogramming a robe. Did you know that some robes have a tie on the inside? And so you have to make sure that you monogram on the right side of the robe so that they're able to tie it on the inside and still be able to turn it the right way. Apparently, women's clothes are made so that we go this way and men go this way. So typically on a female robe, it will be monogrammed on the right side, and on a male robe, it will be monogrammed on the left side. Now, if there's no tie on the inside of the robe, then it really doesn't even matter what side you put it on, because they'll wrap whichever way you have the monogram on. But we do have a tendency as a female to wrap to the right and boys wrap to the left. So this one, you can see what I'm talking about. This is designed for a lady, and so here's the tie. So you see what I mean? So this is gonna go over here. So you wouldn't want to monogram here, because if she's a small person, she's gonna be wrapping it, you know, way over there. What I did was I went ahead and put a pin right here, which told me, hey, that's where the lapel ends, because this is a very fluffy and thick lapel, and chances are the monogram is going to get under there anyway. That's just unfortunate, but that is just the way that it is. You also see that with lab jackets and doctor's jackets and stuff like that. But what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to stay as close as possible to that lapel, because anything that you go further over this way, it's very slouchy and wrinkly. That's just the nature of a robe. So I am going to try to keep it that way. Now, in Design Shop Professional level, I can knock down the fabric and monogram over that, which I'm definitely going to do that for this particular robe. But I will show you how to set up your design if you don't have that feature. So don't worry if you don't have that feature. All right, so when you hoop the robe, you want to make sure that when you lay it on the table, let me take this hanger off. When you lay it on the table, you want it to be like it's going to be on the individual, like that. Okay, you want to, you know, cross it, because that's the only way that you can make sure that your monogram is straight, by having it on the table as how it's going to fit on their body. I'm going to use 2 pieces of cutaway. I'm going to stick this in here like that. I can now pull that lapel out of the way now that I know what I want to do. I'm using the 5.5 Mighty Hoop. I always rough side up, tab up. I'm going to slip this underneath the backing. Make sure that the backing 100% covers my hoop. Now, if you do not have the feature where you can knock down the fabric, you're going to want to put a piece of water soluble over top of something this fluffy, but not if you do the knockdown. All right, so now I'm just going to hoop this straight. I'm going to check inside and make sure that my backing is 100% around, which it is. All right, and so now we are ready to put it on the machine. For your knockdown stitches, you want to use a color that's very similar to whatever it is that you're sewing. So I pulled out this color because it's very similar to the robe color, because you don't want those stitches to be seen. You want them to be hidden. So what I'm going to do is when I trace, I'm going to try to get as close as I can to that pin, because I want it to be as close to the lapel as possible without the lapel actually covering it, which of course, again, is hard to do. So I'm going to slip this on. Make sure that nothing is caught underneath, especially since you have extra little pieces of, you know, strings inside of the robe. You'll make sure all that's out of the way. So just kind of sweep your hand under there and then go ahead and trace it out. If you have a thread in the way, which I have a thread in the way right now, so you can actually take it, and this is a spring right here, trace it out. Okay, so that's about as close as I feel comfortable with going, you know, as close to that pin as possible. So we are officially ready to go. it's finished. It was a little under 10,000 stitches. I recommend that every time you press go, look at how many stitches that you're actually sewing, because that's going to give you an idea of how many stitches you're talking about. So when someone shows you their logo, you can kind of figure out, oh, that's probably going to be 6,000 stitches. That's probably going to be 9,000 stitches or whatever. So here we go. You can see that I have my stitches that knock down the robe, and then I used the fancy font to put right on top of that. So it came out great. I love the way it looks. I'm going to go ahead and take this hoop off. The price of this monogram is $17 for the customer. And so there you go. Looks good. Hopefully won't get covered by the lapel too much, but came out great. Okay, let's set up the robe. I'm going to click on A. I'm going to click on the screen. I'm going to type in RHW, and then I'm going to say enter. I'm going to come here to my alphabets, and I'm going to start typing in FAN until Fancy Monogram pops up. I'm going to choose Fancy Monogram. I'm going to come over here and make it 3 inches tall. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust, because this R looks a little too far away from me, so I like it better like that. I'm going to pop it into the center. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this wider, because I have to cover all that fluff on the robe. So I'm going to come to my pull percentage, and I'm going to pop it up to about 130, maybe 140. Okay, because even though it looks really thick here, it won't actually sew out that thick. It's actually showing it to us in 3D. So I think 140 will give me good coverage, but won't make the W look weird, how it's kind of coming together right here. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my underlay settings. So I'm going to double click, which opens up object properties, and I'm going to go to underlay. So I'm going to enable auto underlay, and I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to click this on percentage. I'm going to do an edge walk at a width of 80. So I'm willing to take up more of the letter with my edge walk, go a little bit closer to the edge of it, because it's a robe, and if a little bit of thread comes out, no one will see it because it's a robe. So that's why I increase the width to 80% of the letter instead of 60. Now for my secondary underlay, I'm going to go to a double zigzag. I'm going to again change my width to 80, and I'll keep it at a density of 20, and then I'll say apply. And so now all of my changes have applied. Now with those settings, with those underlay settings, you could go ahead and sew this on that particular type of robe with a piece of water soluble, and everything will be perfectly fine and nice and covered. I am going to knock down the robe here because I have the professional level. If you don't have the professional level, I promise you this right here will give you great coverage. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to operations, I'm going to go generate basting and primer, and I'm going to say okay. Now all of that is one color, so I just want to take this highlighted area right here, and I want to make it the color of the robe, which is more like a dark gray. All right, and so this is what I actually did on the robe right here. Because I have the professional level, I love the way it came out. But again, if you don't have that level, you don't have that option, you could either digitize it yourself, or you could just sew it just like this, and it will look just as great. Okay, good luck with your robes.